fans? Shane Carlson with you here again this week for NASCAR Insight, and heading into a huge weekend in racing this weekend. We got Talladega, the epitome of NASCAR. It's going to be a great race, great weekend. We got Truck and Cup this weekend. Nationwide Series is off. Nationwide Series will be back in a few weeks in Texas, as they only have 3 races left in their season. But we just passed the halfway point in the chase. We're starting race 6 of 10 for the Sprint Cup Series, and for the trucks, they also have 5 races left, Talladega being one of them. So with that, I'm going to move on to my recap of last weekend. We were at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Nationwide and the Sprint Cup Series. Nationwide was on Friday night, and Sprint Cup was Saturday night under the lights. In the Nationwide Series, Kyle Busch wins his 11th race of the year in the Nationwide Series. It's his 62nd career Nationwide Series win, most all time. And as for the points lead, Sam Hornish Jr. went into the race trailing Austin Dillon. And the result is the same leaving Charlotte. Austin Dillon is still the points leader by 8 points over Sam Hornish Jr. And I feel like Sam Hornish Jr. really let one get away from him this weekend. He was leading with 8 laps to go, and the handling on his Ford Mustang just went away. And Kyle Busch was able to reel him back in. And actually, Austin Dillon got by him too late to finish second. So Sam Hornish Jr. finished third. When I felt like he had a realistic shot at winning his 3rd race of the season and passing or extending that points lead for himself. But instead, it's still Austin Dillon on top of the points. Austin Dillon still doesn't have a win yet, though, this year. So with 3 races left, he's looking to get a win. They have Texas, Phoenix, and Homestead still. So 3 opportunities for Dillon to get a win, but I know fans and a lot of other people, wouldn't want to be the first driver to win a championship without ever winning a race in the season. I think that would be kind of a backwards deal, and I don't think it would be too popular. So I would really love to see him win a race, and if he does win this championship. Otherwise, Sam and Austin have been battling it out really over the past about a month, and it's been really, really good between those 2 guys, and I just hope they can continue to battle for wins as the season comes to a close here. And the Sprint Cup Series, Saturday night under the lights, we had the Bank of America 500, and I think it was the best race of the year, to be honest. It was the best finish, that's for sure, between Brad Keselowski, the 2012 Cup champion, and title contender Kasey Kahne. Well, he's not really a title contender anymore, but he did make the chase. And actually, the race was won by Brad Keselowski, and that was the first time since 2011 that a non-chase racer has won a chase race. He did not make the cut for the chase this year, and so it's been dominated by all chase drivers so far. They've won all the races except for this last one in Charlotte. So that's good for him, and it's his first win in a Ford in the Sprint Cup Series. And they're really just building for next year. Coming off of a championship and then not making the chase is a humbling experience, I could imagine. And so they're really just looking to get back to their the form that they were in last year and get to Daytona and start next season off strong. So it was a great race, actually, with like 15 laps to go. It was the 2 and the 5 car of Kahne just battling it out, and with 9 to go, the 2 car of Brad Keselowski took the lead. And they traded the lead a few times between their battle, and eventually it was Brad Keselowski getting the best of Kasey Kahne, who led a bunch of laps. He had a strong car throughout the night, but Brad Keselowski took advantage of a final restart and was able to capitalize and get a win. Actually, Jimmy Johnson too looked like he had a winning car. He led 130 laps, but there was a caution with 27 laps to go for debris. which is disputed between fans and drivers alike. Jimmy was dominating, so some people think that NASCAR just threw the caution to bunch the field back up and get a more exciting finish. Whether that was the case or not, can't go back and change that now. But it did look like Jimmy had the winning car. Would have been his 8th win at Charlotte, which is just amazing. It would have broke a tie, or that would have been the all-time record right there. But he led 130 laps, and when he came in on his pit stop with 27 laps to go, he took 4 tires instead of 2, and a bunch of other guys took 2 tires, so that shuffled him back to about 7th. He was able to claw his back way to about 4th, finished 4th, but it was 1 position behind Matt Kenseth, and Kenseth really struggled all night. He just found himself in the when it counted, he just found himself near the front of the pack and actually gained 1 point on Jimmy Johnson. So now Matt Kenseth is up 4 points in the championship hunt. And so that's disappointing for Jimmy to finish, to have such a strong car and still lose a point to Matt Kenseth. But we move on to Talladega this weekend with the trucks and the Sprint Cup Series. As I mentioned before, the Nationwide Series is off for a few weeks. So for the Truck Series, I'm going to be paying attention to the points battle, really. Matt Crafton, driving the number 88 Toyota Tundra, is up 41 points on James Buescher in the number 31 Chevrolet. And that's over a full race, but being as we're at Talladega this weekend, that deficit can really be erased a lot if Matt Crafton is to have a struggle or have a bad race, maybe be caught up in the big one that always happens at Talladega. And if James Buescher is able to run near the front and maybe even get a win, that would really tighten things up at the top of the point standings. It would be great for the fans. But, those guys have been really the class of the field. At least Matt Crafton has been the class of the field all season. In 17 races, he has 16 top 10s. And Buescher has 2 wins so far. So Buescher's looking to get a 3rd victory and close that points deficit. So we'll see what goes on there. It's a shorter race than the Sprint Cup, obviously. So there's a greater urgency among drivers to get to the front of the field, and that means the front bumpers will be used. So look for that. There's sure to be a big wreck. There always is in every race at Talladega. Every race I've seen, there's always a wreck that takes out some people that had good cars and trucks. So we'll see what goes on there in the Truck Series. Nationwide is off. Sprint Cup Series is at Talladega on Sunday. This is the wild card race of the chase. This is the big race that no one really has an upper hand at. Everybody's pretty much even. 43 cars show up to this track. 43 cars can win at this track. On a normal basis, there's about 25 cars that show up to a regular race weekend and can win legitimately. But this track just evens everything out. It's a restrictor plate race. And fans love it. It really sums up NASCAR, what it is. And this weekend, I'm going to be watching definitely the top 5 contenders in the standings, being Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Gordon, and Kyle Busch. Those are the 5 to keep an eye on. Johnson and Kenseth have a sizable lead, about 28 points, I believe, over Matt Kenseth or Kevin Harvick in 3rd. But those Johnson and Kenseth, I think, have to be a little bit worried about going into Talladega, because seeing as there's always a big wreck. Do they want to be on the defensive? I think they would want to try to play it safe and just protect their lead. But we never know. Those guys are always run well there. I personally like the position that Kevin Harvick, Jeff Gordon, and Kyle Busch are in, because really they have no pressure from behind. They can go out and attack this track and try to get the win, be at the front of the pack all day long, and they don't have to worry about points, really. They're just going after wins, and they'll let the rest of it take care of itself. So I'm liking where those guys are at, and they really, all 5 of those guys really run well at Talladega. It's just a matter of missing the big wreck. You got to be at the right spot at the right time. Don't run in the middle of the pack, because that's where the wrecks usually start, and it just goes from there on back and collects a bunch of other cars in there. So if I was to be racing, I'd try to stay up front all day long. It's just the safest route to go. But there's a lot of strategies and a lot of agendas that go on there. So it'll be interesting to watch those guys, and also the non-chasers, really, because this is a wild card race. You can really pick a number out of a hat and have a good shot of picking the winner than as analyzing all the other drivers and whatever. Anybody can win this race, and actually I picked a non-chaser to win this race. So with that, I'll name my picks for this weekend. In the truck series, I'm going to go with James Buescher in the 31. I just believe that in the past 3 races, he has 2 top 10s, and he's run pretty well there over the years, and he needs to make something happen this weekend. If it doesn't happen this weekend, I don't think he can win this championship. I think he's just a little too far out from Matt Crafton. But we'll see. A lot of things can happen, a lot of racing left, but this is his best opportunity to gain a lot of points this weekend. And on the Sprint Cup Series side, I'm going to go with the opposite number in the 13 in Casey Mears. I've never really hear about him. He's kind of a dark horse, but really he's actually a pretty talented plate racer. He finds himself near the lead a lot of the time in the plate races. He knows when to be smart, and he knows when to make his move to go to the front. He has just 1 career win, but I always think he's a good pick, especially for fantasy owners. He's a cheap value. I think you can gain a lot of points going with Casey Mears this weekend. So that's my pick. I think he might go in and spoil the chase party for the 2nd week in a row. And with that, enjoy the races at Talladega. I'm super excited about it. Can't wait to see what happens. And I hope my drivers don't get in a big one. So thanks.